What I'm going to do is I'm going to be talking about table tennis tactics, okay? First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the first line of my book, Table Tennis Tactics. How many people actually have this book? Just curious. Okay. The very first line of it is tactics is not trying to find complex strategies to defeat an opponent. It's sifting through the zillions of possibilities and finding a few simple ones that work. Okay, that's the most important thing to understand about tactics. It's actually very simple except for the sheer number of possibilities. Okay, how many people here play chess? Okay, in chess, at the high levels, if you get a very small positional advantage or a one-pawn advantage, you win. In table tennis, it's similar at high levels. At lower levels, tactics, it's very simple. I give a side top serve, the guy misses it, and I say, oh, that's a perfect tactic. Or I might put the ball to his weak back and he misses. So it's a very obvious thing. High levels, it's like chess where you're trying to get very small advantages. You might not win the point, but if you have a very small advantage at the high levels, in the long run, you're going to win. So the goal of the serve might not be to win the point outright, but it's to get that small advantage. And if you have that small advantage, you're going to eventually win on that, because that's the purpose of the serve, which I'll be getting to a little bit more, okay? Serving, of all the things, this is the one that you have the most control of. You have complete control. So you should spend more time tactically thinking on the serve than anything else, because you have complete control over it, okay? Anytime you have a question, just raise your hand on these things. I'm gonna refer to my notes occasionally, these things, okay? If you want to really be a good player, a good tactical player, one of the key things is you have to have a tactical toolbox. Anyone know what that is? What's a tactical tool? What is it?
All things that you can pull out and change in the middle of the match.
Right, your tactical toolbox. If you're missing something, you're handicapped. You all know Canuck Jaw, the top US player. He's like 25 in the world. I haven't watched him last year, a couple of years, but I coached against him as a junior. Every time you wanted to play him, everyone knew he had a really good backhand flip, but his forehand flip was not quite as good. Anyone know, is it gotten better, by the way? His forehand flip? It was weaker when he was a junior. So whenever you played him, people think, oh, I'll just serve short to his forehand, and he'd come over here and flip with his backhand, he'd mix up with the forehand, and he dominated. The smart players realized you had to serve from over here, be able to serve short there, long there. If you could do that, you could beat him. The problem is a lot of players, including several I coached against him, couldn't do that serve. They didn't have that in their toolbox, and so they would have matches they could have won. We lost a deuce in the fifth match because my player simply could not serve short right there from this spot. He can only do it from here. So you need to have a complete toolbox of this type of thing. Okay, that's just a key thing. Anyway, okay, what is the goal of the server? What's the goal of the server?
To gain like an advantage that you can further exploit.
Pretty good. That's a pretty good answer. I would say the purpose of the serve in almost always, is to set up your attack, which is basically the same thing. It's to set up your attack. There are exceptions, but it's not a matter of serve and see, gee, will I get a ball to attack? You serve and attack. It's a given unless the other person does something to stop your attack. You're basically serving, the whole point is to find a way to attack. If he stops it, then you probably have to change your serve. Now there's exceptions. You're playing a chopper, you might serve, he backs up, you might give him a drop shot. Or if you have someone with a big backhand rip on the backhand, and you know he can't control it, but you know he's gonna rip it, you might throw a big deep serve, big breaking serve into his backhand, try to catch him off guard, but you know if he comes back, it's gonna rip, right? So then you have to serve and get ready to block. But almost always, you don't serve and hope there's a ball to attack or look to see it. You serve and attack. That's just a given, okay? Here's a question. Some people develop their game around their serves. Some people develop their serves around their game, okay? I actually developed my game around my serve. I actually learned good serves from the start. And because of that, I found pop-ups, so I was constantly playing forehand, and bang, I became a forehand player. How many people here develop their game around their serve? How many people develop their serve around their game? How many people have never, ever thought about this? How many people have never thought of this but are too embarrassed to raise their hand? No. All right. Okay, that's just something that you should be thinking about. Okay, tactical thinking versus strategic thinking. This is a big one. Anyone know the difference between tactical thinking, strategic thinking? Anybody know the difference? Yep.
Tactical thinking is when you have an idea. Strategic thinking is when you have like a whole plan.
Close. It's a little more extended. Any other guesses? Or no? People know the difference? Okay. Tactical thinking is what works now. Strategic thinking is developing yourself for the future. Okay. Let's suppose you have there's a guy at my club who's his level of play normally would be about 1,300, but he has this really good tomahawk serve like this into the forehand that 15, 16-yard players, 14-yard players, they can't return the serve. So he uses it over and over. Tactically, it's brilliant. This 13-yard player is rated 1,600 because of that serve. But that's tactical. Strategically, his game has never developed because it's all relying on this one serve that every 17-yard player loops against him. So his game is very good tactically, but not strategically. Tactically, you need to be able to learn how to win now with what you have. Strategically is developing your game for the future. For example, this guy who always serves long, if he instead served short, other guy pushes, he loops. He does this over and over and over. Guess what? His footwork gets better, his attack gets better, every part of his game gets better, and he keeps improving and he gets a lot better than the other guy. That's strategic thinking. In North Carolina, many years ago, there were these two 12-year-olds, I'll call it Tim and Arlie. Every month they had a tournament there, and Tim won over and over by just pushing and blocking. Very good tactics for him. He won every time. Arlie attacked very hard, he always lost. One time, Tim attacked very hard, and he lost. And his dad, who was coaching him, yelled at him for a day. He said, "That was stupid, why did you attack?" So he went back to pushing and blocking. Okay, Tim became a decent player, he reached 1,600. Arlie, the attacker, after 1 year, he just pulled away because strategically his game was much, much better, and he became a 2,200 player. Okay. On the other hand, a lot of people, because they spend so much time developing themselves strategically, they don't develop the tactical side. They don't understand these things. I was coaching a 2250 player just last year, a 2250 guy. He was playing a 3 out of 5 against a guy who was 100 points weaker than him, and he lost the first game, and I was coaching someone else. I came over, and he'd already lost, the second game. He's down 2-0 against this weaker player, and he comes over the side, and I only saw the last few points. He says, "Larry, I don't know what to do against this guy. If I serve long, he loops. If I serve short to the corners, he quick pushes. If I push it to the, no, it wasn't you, Ryan. It was someone else. I'll tell you later. Anyway, if I serve to the middle, he drops it. And it's like I have no answer. And I said, "Have you tried short no spin to the middle?" And he literally went, "Oh yeah." In other words, he has really good strategic development, but he didn't have any tactical thinking. The obvious thing was give a short no spin, and now those pushes to the corners weren't so heavy. The short pushes weren't as short, they popped up, and he wins 3 straight. So that was an example of someone who was not very good tactically yet. So you've got to develop both of them. But there's one thing to think about. Part of tactical development is strategic development, okay? I do recommend up-and-coming players focus on the strategic, but if you're playing a match and it's deuce in the fifth or something, you gotta play the right tactics. If you're playing someone and it's suddenly late in the match and everything's on the line and you suddenly have a backhand serve that might mess the guy up, use it, even if it's a trick serve, okay, which I'll get to. So, any questions on this type of thing? Strategic versus tactical thinking? Okay. Okay, I want to see questions, because the more questions, that means they're thinking more about this as opposed to the pizza coming later. By the way, every time you ask a question, you get another slice of pizza. You're getting lots of pizza. Yep.
So during a normal advanced group training session, how much would you recommend for the average player to be thinking strategically about how does this drill link or fit into my overall development during the next 3 years versus how in the world at this point can I beat Sid Naresh on the other side of the table?
Okay, the strategic all the way, especially if it's practice. We have players at my club who we play practice matches, and these are players who are still trying, their loop is not that good, but they can push and block. And so what they do, they should be learning to loop. Yet they're trying to win so bad. And I keep saying, this is practice. If you can't practice your strategic game now, how are you going to do it later on? Okay, you need to be able to look at a practice match and play the way you want to win. But there has to be a balance. If I'm playing a practice match and I'm playing Ryan and we're battling it out and all, I'm racing around in my mind, counter looping at them like I could many decades ago. No, I'm racing around. The score goes to, I'm finally up 10-9 match point. Something. I can think, should I serve short and rip? Nah, I'm gonna go for the cheap point. I'm gonna try to win that, because that's tactical thinking. So you need to find a balance. One of the things I always hate is when a coach insists on a player winning on his own shots and he never develops the tactical thinking. I'll be getting more of that when I get to what I call trick serves and third ball serves, about learning when to use these things. Because if you don't think tactically now and never do it, you'll never develop it. So you have to find that balance. You really, really need to be constantly thinking strategic when you're playing out there, thinking what you're doing. If you have trouble looping backspin, do it. And when you're playing up-down tables, what's more important? Going up a table one time, or developing that shot until it really starts hitting, and you become Arlie from North Carolina, who goes way ahead of the other guy. Well, the other guy beats him for a year and never beats him again. So they'll always be thinking strategically. But again, tactical is part of that. Okay. Samson gets a slice of pizza.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. I'm going to talk. I like to divide serves into two types of serves. There's some overlap. I like to call them setup serves and trick serves. There's overlap, okay? But the reason I always find it convenient to divide them. Anyone know the difference? What's a setup serve? Slice of pizza's on the line.
Setup is like you're preparing the serve for the other one, like to prepare a shot.
To prepare a shot?
Yeah.
What type of shot?
Like if I push like underspin short, it's very uncomfortable. It might pop up, or they push long and then you attack.
Okay. Third, that's pretty one way of answering it. Setup serves or third ball serves are serves that are designed very simple. You serve it, they return it, you attack it. It's very hard for the opponent to attack a good serve like that. You can flip any serve, but they shouldn't be able to attack it that aggressively. They may be able to do things like drop it short or things like that. But third ball serves, these are the ones that are designed where you serve, they return it, and you attack. And you want to do it over and over. If you're not able to serve and attack on that serve, then you change to a different variety or variation. Or you just throw a deep trick serve at them, make them guard against that, and then go back to the short serve and catch them off guard. But third ball serves, that should be the backbone of your game. Serves that set up your attack. Okay, that's the backbone of your game. Most common ones, how many people like to serve short backspin, no spin combinations? Okay. It's one of the most common at the world class. You just serve, same motion, sometimes short backspin, sometimes short no spin, and you vary it. You also do half long serves that go just off the end or something like that, where the person can't really loop it. They just soft toss spin it back, and you grip it. Give them a choice. Here's a quick vote. Give them a choice between serving the other guy pushing long, or serving the other guy giving you a kind of a medium soft topspin. Which do you prefer? How many people prefer the backspin return? How many prefer the topspin return? It's about even. A lot of people like the topspin. I like the backspin return, personally. I used to. Now these days I'm not so good, but I always prefer that. But the idea is you served to get the one you want. If you're a really good counter looper, then you might want to start serving slightly long, half long, and let them just spin the ball easy, as long as they can't loop it aggressively. You've got to find that balance. So, some people think half long goes just off the end or maybe right on the end, but you want that soft topspin return. Those are third ball serves. That's got to be the backbone of your game. Remember that 1600 player, the 1300 player who became 1600? He didn't make the backbone of his game, and he's a career 1600 player. He probably could be a much better player by now. Okay, what's a trick serve? You get this one. Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. You want to do it? You want to go?
Yeah.
Yep. That'd be a good example. You catch them off guard. What was your example?
I just thought it's like a serve that just to like make the ball fly out of the table from the opponent's rack.
Yep. Jed, when I played yesterday and I gave up, my attack absolutely was not there. About 3/4 of my serves were trick serves. Would you say that's about right? I was throwing nothing. Yeah, I couldn't move, so I just heck with it. I'm just going to throw every trick serve I have at them. The idea is, I'm probably not thinking strategically. If I keep throwing those trick serves at Jed, I'm probably not going to make 2,600 by next year. So I probably need to think strategically. Okay, trick serves are the ones where you're literally doing three things. Okay, the third ball serves set you up. A trick serve actually does three things. Okay, some people think it's one or two. Obviously, you get 3 points out of it. If you don't have a few tricky serves, which I'll explain a couple of them. If you don't have some tricky serves, and the other guy does, he has a big advantage. He's going to get a few free points and you don't. So you really need to have a few tricky serves that you can just pull on the guy. That's the first thing. What's another advantage of a trick serve? Anyone else want to guess? Okay.
It's unexpected.
Right, that means that so they might make a mistake, right? But there's another purpose for it. Yep.
They kind of have to wait for it, so they maybe, like if you have a long serve, they might be waiting back instead of if you're doing all like short serves.
Exactly. At the higher levels, the biggest advantage of a deep serve is they have to guard against it. Okay. There's so many examples of players who overuse short serves and people just hang over the table. It's so easy. Once they have to guard against it, they're slightly slower coming in. Their push, their touch, everything is a little bit weaker. Remember at the higher levels how you need that small advantages turn into big advantages at the end? That's where it comes from. So if they have to guard against one of those big trick serves, I'm going to talk about some of the deep serves, for example. They're going to have to guard against it. If they have to guard against it, bang, your other serves become much, much more effective. Later on, ask me with the Randy Seymour example. I don't want to take up time on that, but some of you have heard of this 2450 player. He just served all, fine, I'll mention it. Yeah, 2450 player plays me. He serves all short against me, and, well, I'll let Danny Seymour say it best. I beat the guy really bad 2 straight, and Danny Seymour, his older brother, when he comes off the table, says 2 things, and I wish he'd stopped after the first. You'll hear both parts. The first thing Danny says, Randy, you idiot. Larry's great against short serves. He could have stopped then, but then he said, if you mix up your serve, Larry falls apart. And that was true also. So what happened was I beat Randy because he gave me too many short serves. Next time I played him was like 6 years later. His first serve, big breaking serve, I missed it. And he looked at me and smiled, and he remembered. And this time he won 2 straight, or 3 straight. So you need to have those the tricky serves like that. So any questions on these type of things? Yep, no questions on this one? Well, you started to. Okay, just want to make sure and there was one other advantage to it. One other reason you use it. Some people take the theory that, I'm just going to think strategically. I'm just going to use simple serves and like that and third ball all the time, and later on I can develop these good tricky serves. There's this one problem. If you wait until later on, you never develop the instinct for when to use them. Good servers can literally, let's go up there and they just know when to use what serve at any time. They just can see what serves work at what times, and you don't develop that instinct if you wait till later on. So you need to develop those serves early and have a balance. Yep.
So, tactically speaking, when you're coaching a student in a match, how often do you encourage them to start with a trick serve within the first half of the first game, and how often do you encourage them to wait until maybe later in the first game or second game?
Okay, I was just smiling at Ryan because Ryan knows what I'm going to say. So cat's out of the bag. Ryan, I have to tell people the truth now. What I tell people is, if you're playing someone who doesn't know your game, hasn't played you regularly, and doesn't know I'm coaching, how many of you are going to be at the junior national trials next week? Okay, all of you, if you could all cover your ears. Now, I generally encourage players on the very first serve of the match. One of the things, at least for me, I tell them to use their trickiest serve possible. You want to find out if it works, and I want them watching for it. Why use the short serve? They make a good return, and then you get the trick serve. Give them the trick serve, they're watching for it, and your next serve is better. So I always tell people, use your very best serve at the start, and see what happens. And if it works, great. Halfway through the game, again, you get the instinct of when you can use it again. Maybe halfway through the game, come back to it. At the end of the game, come back to it. In between, use your other serves. The guy is constantly guarding against that serve, like the big breaking one into the backhand or something. So you want to use them early, as early as possible. A lot of times you use it once, and if they make a good return, say, okay, then you go some other ones, and then you try another one. So I remember Coach Chen Yinghua, who was the best player in the U.S. for 15 years, he used to play David Zwang, and he would serve down the line like the first 3 times of the match until David was literally standing there. Then he'd serve out to the backhand, as a pips-up end holder. And so, it was unexpected, but he would do these trick serves like that over and over, and then he'd go to the regular serves. So, any questions on that?
Could you show a couple tricky serves?
Okay, I'm going to get to that when I get to deep serves. I just want to go short on time. If I start running too low on time, I'll get that. I'm like just in demos. Yep.
Is it more effective to do a short tricky serve or long?
Okay, most tricky serves tend to be the long serves. Okay, there's actually, I always call the big 3 of deep serves. I might as well cover them now, I guess. Let me cover those parts now. Okay, they don't all have to be that thing. How many people have seen me do this serve where I serve this serve here where I go like that? This is my straight backspin serve. Is that straight backspin? I actually messed up. It's supposed to go double bounce. Okay, now that serve there is a very innocent looking serve. My racket was open like this, and watch my tip. Everyone saw this? So this is, everyone agree this, I'm asking you what spin is it? What spin does it look like?
Under.
Right, it looks like under. Okay, actually what it was straight side top. That's a trick serve. However, this is the overlap between trick serve and third ball serves. This is my number one third ball serve when I play, and my number one, one of my best trick serves, because it goes short, unlike most trick serves. You go like this. There's a backspin. There's a side spin. There's side top. There's no spin. If I go like this, this is the axis of rotation. Then the the wrist, and then just before contact, it's like this. Here's a backspin, side spin, top spin. That's a topspin serve. And people push it all day long. And when they do flip it, they get a little tentative. And I'm just standing here ready to go after it. So yes, most trick serves are long, but they can also be short ones too. I consider that the overlap. By the way, I'm gonna get to this more later, but that side top serve, you know what that also means? In my day, only really good players could use short balls against me, because once they saw that side top and then my willingness to use it, they're always watching for it. And by the time they're sure it's a backspin, it's kind of too late to push short. So I used to be able to serve that ball, and I could serve backspin. I usually got a long return. So it's a very effective way to make it difficult to push short. Occasionally I play a 26, 50, 27. I give the side top, I'm getting ready for it, and they chop block it down and double bounce it. It takes great touch to do that. You know, I don't think I've ever seen anyone under 2600 who could do that consistently. So, okay, since I was talking about trick serves, this is also long serves, which is going to get to later. When you do long serves, there are a lot of possibilities. I always can think of the big three. You should learn a lot of varieties, but these are the big three. Question: what do you think? What do you think the big three are of deep trick serves? Name one. Name one.
Pendulum.
That's a type of thing. What type of deep serve though is really a good trick serve that can catch them off guard?
I kick it along the backhand.
Kick it along to the backhand. I gave you that one a lot. That's one. Okay. The big breaking serve. What's another one?
Wide.
Wide where?
Backhand.
That's the one he just. Yeah, that's somewhere. Yep.
Forehand, that's right.
Oh, wide to the floor. The down the line serve. Okay. The big three are fast down the line, which can be done straight, but usually a side spin. Fast no spin at the elbow. It can be done everywhere, but catches them off guard. Or the big breakaway into the backhand. Those are the big three that you should all perfect. Now, there's a lot of other possibilities, but you gotta learn this. If you wanna do it down the line, there are different ways of doing it. Make sure this isn't in my way. Okay. I used to practice my serves 20 minutes a day for several years, so I used to be a lot better at this. But if I wanna go down the line, I just know all I gotta do is contact you here. There's different ways of doing it. My favorite way is right through here, come through here. Like that. Where's my racket pointing at contact? Over there. It's a big side spin. Contact is here, goes here, comes around there. Because my racket is aiming there the whole time, people get caught by it. This 2650 player, former national champion, I aced him the first three serves, and he broke up laughing afterwards. But the idea is, you can do it this way, like that. And if I were in practice, I'd go even faster. Contact the ball here, a little bit inside the table, come across, boom, like that. You can also do it this way. If you do it that way, I'm not as good at that way, but that way it actually breaks away from the player. But what's the weakness of this version?
There's a towel a little bit.
They can see it. They can see it coming because you have to go around like this. This one here, they can't tell it's coming. So I much prefer this one, but this one has, if you do the serve well, it breaks away from them even though they can see it coming. You can also do a straight topspin serve like this. It's faster, but if they touch it, they're going to make their turn. So it's not usually as effective unless you really see them going around. That's effective for an ace, but it's not effective for a winner. If they touch it, they usually make a good return. Okay, that's the down the line serve. Any questions on that one? Okay, next one. This is probably the single biggest point winner. If you're looking for one free point, probably up to 24, even a 2400 level. 2400 players will miss this on the first time over and over. What serve am I about to do? Oops, net. What serve is that? Fast no spin. I should go a little faster. I'm going to try one more time. I might miss it. It should go just to the right of that paddle. That's right where the guy's elbow might be. There is, except for the net. If you can give a fast no spin, what happens is the person, if they try to play backhand, and these days people like to receive backhand, they go like this and they have to lift everything up. And they're not used to it. It's a lot of free points. There was a 2650 player many years ago. Probably none of you know David Fernandez, 2650, and everybody from all the 26 and 2500 players from my club kept beating him by giving him that one serve because he was so weak against it. It was just amazing. Remember David Fernandez? He was just amazing, such a good player, yet he struggled with that one serve all the time. Todd Suarez, Sean Largan, they all beat him. Eric Owens also. So fast, no spin at the middle. The key there is come in like it's a regular serve and rad contact, slight downward motion. It should be twice as fast. I'm going to try one more time to get speed. I should have warmed this one up. There we go. Perfect. All right. Third one, the big breaking serve. It breaks away from the person. Okay. What's wrong with this next serve? Watch the serve and tell me what's wrong with it. What was wrong with that serve, other than the fact that it went 6 inches inside? I was going for the corner. What's wrong with that serve? Was that a good serve? It was a horrible serve. Why? No one saw what was horrible about it? One more try. What's horrible about this serve?
It goes like really straight.
It's a perfectly straight serve. A person reflexively is going to pound that ball. 2/3 of the people in this room, I'm going to serve that ball and you're going to pound it. If you're going to serve deep to the backhand, then you usually want to put some break into it. Usually it means something like this. Now that's an effective one. That one broke a long ways. It breaks away from the person. Contact to here. Boom. For deep serves, you usually want to contact back here. First bounce as close to the white line as you can. That one messed up. By the way, does anyone notice anything interesting about how I set up the serve? No one notices it? Does anyone notice that every single time I serve, I do this? That's a mental rehearsal thing. You should all develop things like that. It's a mental rehearsal. It's almost hilarious that when I don't do that, I mess up my serve. That last serve, I didn't do that. And I messed up. I literally feel like it's not right. I do this. Boom, serve is there. So that one broke about that much. So you want to develop that big breaking serve, the fast no spin, and the fast down the line, okay? And I do encourage you to develop little habits. You'll see people do this type of thing. That's a mental rehearsal. People used to bounce on the floor, then they go to these red ones and they find it didn't bounce as much. This is okay. So any questions? Yep.
I actually talked to some of my students about the mental rehearsal,
right?
And I stopped allowing them to bounce it on the floor.
Yep.
Because U.S. Open and U.S. Nationals and some other tournaments, sometimes they don't have the red floor taped down very good.
Oh, it's very dead.
And so I had a couple students who went to do it, and they couldn't do the rehearsal, and then it threw them off, and they couldn't serve.
Yep.
And I said, okay, we need to have a rehearsal that you can do anytime, whether it be dribble the ball. So the rehearsal needs to be something you can do everywhere.
Yep.
And I would not recommend the floor one.
Okay, the most disgusting one that fortunately has mostly died down in the way back when I started out my first 10, 20, maybe 10, 20 years. I don't know who started this, and some still do it. Between every serve, they'd walk over and wipe their hand around the table like that and walk back. You've seen that before?
Yeah, but during COVID, they didn't let you do it.
Right.
Again, it broke somebody's rehearsal.
Okay, one player got in trouble because they finally got him because every serve he'd walk over here, and then he'd walk all the way back here, and the umpires finally rebelled. He was stalling, but he would walk all the way over there every time. But you do want to develop something simple like that. The bouncing on the table is perfect. I always do this, bounce it, boom, and now I'm ready. In fact, when I go this, it's like this is my whole world at that point. So, okay, next I want to cover some general things. What? Oh.
When you're going through your three main serves, you're mainly talking like righty-righty or lefty-lefty. How much does that change when you're talking lefty-righty?
Good question. Okay, remember that down the line serve? Suddenly, if I'm playing a lefty, they have to guard that angle over there. This down the line serve does not work against all righties. Okay, I'm gonna come back to the lefty thing in one sec. When you're playing a righty, there are two types of people who have trouble with that forehand serve, and this connects to the lefty thing. Those who are always looking to step around, like me, so they can get vulnerable to that. Also, those who are two wing and close to the table. You'll see people close to the table. That sudden fast one gives them trouble. Okay, against a lefty, they have to guard that angle, and they have to watch out for that big serve there. So when you do this serve here, that gives them all sorts of problems. I love that serve. I actually, against lefties, probably half my matches against lefties start off with that serve. I want them to guard against that serve. And after I give them that serve and they're guarding it, where do I like to serve next? Probably short to the forehand. Either short here at maximum distance or maybe middle forehand. I'll explain why middle forehand is sometimes better. But I like to make them cover that whole distance. And I might go out there too if the forehand is a little weak. But the whole idea is guess what? They keep expecting I'm going there. I'm going to go there. I am going to go there. I want them, probably once early on, just so they can see it's there. I want them to guard against it. So it does make a difference. A righty versus lefty, vice versa. That down the line serve. If I'm playing a lefty and he can serve it down here, it's very awkward covering that shot there. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so I want to go over some general ones. Make sure that on every serve motion, very important, you can vary the spin. You can't have the serve where this is your backspin, this is your side spin. Most of you know this, but most people don't really take it to heart. How many of you can actually use the same motion, serve backspin or a side top and double bounce it consistently? Okay. You gotta be able to do that thing where you can do the same motion every time and still make it bounce twice. That was a side top. If you push that ball's gonna explode off the table. You gotta be able to do that at the same time, same motion, instead of this. Now it's here, okay? Now in a practice session, someone can probably return these somewhat consistently, but if they have to guard against everything, they won't be able to, okay? Who can tell me what heavy no spin is? You all know what no spin is. What's heavy no spin?
Something that looks a lot like it's typically heavy underspin.
Heavy no spin is when you load up the no spin, where you have to really fake it. Sometimes I play people, it's just amazing. Here's their backspin, and here's their no spin. Okay. If you're going to do a no spin, maybe this. Exaggerate. I like to grunt. I don't always do. That's one of the things I like to hold back on. Here's a little tip. If you're going to do no spin, wait till it's 9-all and grunt. And well, when someone returns serve, do you think they're returning it consciously or subconsciously? It's subconscious. Your conscious mind hears the grunt and says, he grunted. Wait a minute, he's probably exaggerating. Oh, point's over. Your subconscious hears it, immediately thinks backspin. So I pull off the grunt, right near the end when I close time all the time. It just gets so many free points. But the idea is you've got to sell your no spin. You can't just go and slow it down. You've got to go in there as vigorous as you can, and if you want to sell it like that. Okay. If you practice it, you can have the same motion for everything. No spin is right there. This does not put spin on the ball, so it's right there. Notice how when you change these spins, you change the axis of rotation. That where it rotates. You may start at the elbow, then the wrist, but right at the end, if you want to be really deceptive, sometimes you do little flicks here, or right there. Okay. So you've got to be able to have different spins with every motion. Okay. Learn all the spins. If you can only do this one or only this one, you're handicapped. Make sure you can do different spins. Some people are very good against one, not so good against the other. Okay. Let me see what's on my next list here. Okay. Serving low. Oh, this is a favorite. I've asked people that, and Samson actually has a device. That device. Have you all seen the thing that makes you serve low? I've got his. I've got another one that guy in our club makes. If you use those things, I'm going to talk about serving low in a minute. But if you get those things, I recommend start by putting it a little bit higher where you know you can do it, and then ignore it. Warm up your serve, everything low. Then once everything's going good, then you lower it to where it should be. And then you completely ignore it. The best way to use those things is just completely ignore it, and you just serve. And guess what? You never have to worry about the thing. But if you serve as high, boom, it lets you know. Okay? Now serving low. A lot of people think they serve it low, and they think all that means is making the ball so it crosses the net low. That's not enough. Okay? Famous story, just real briefly. This is when Waldner was world champion and Persson was #1. This is when Sweden was actually dominating over China for a short time. This is a true story. I'd heard it several times, and believe it or not, U.S. and Sweden went to dinner with the Worlds one year, and Waldner and Persson told me it themselves. It was a true story. Yes, I know both of them. Ask me about my Waldner story when we're done. Over pizza, ask me about my Waldner story. Someone has to ask me that. All right, but this is not that story. What happened was, Waldner had the best serves in the world, and one of the things he did, he had all this trickiness. People couldn't read it, but also they were very low. Persson was serving, all the Swedish team was serving, and Persson served, and he couldn't get his serve to stay as low as Waldner's. And he was apparently yelling, saying some bad words or something. And then right in the middle of it, Waldner walks over, and they actually demonstrate. Waldner walks over and says, "First bounce here," and went back to his table, and that revolutionized the sport. That's when people realized what Waldner was doing was changing the paradigm, which some of you already do this automatically, but you might not even know that you're doing it. You just sort of do it, okay? Used to be, if you want a short serve, first bounce is close to the net. And the ball comes over here, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up. It doesn't bounce as low. What Waldner showed, and what a lot of players do without knowing it, now if you think about it, you can start really controlling it, is to make the ball bounce low. You want your first bounce as far from the net as you can while still double bouncing it. Okay, now I don't practice my serves as much, but I warmed up a little bit. I should be able to do it. But I should be able to take a serve here, contact it very low, serve it here. It should go around, and don't watch the bounce. It should go bump, bump like that. I keep thinking I'm gonna hit this thing. There we go. Okay, that was pretty good. What you notice between the two bounces, it's very low. The whole goal is to make it so low. Okay, so they can't flip effectively. Remember that thing about small advantages? If you have small advantages, well, if the person is doing this, his flip is more aggressive than having to lift up and roll it. Okay, a good player is going to flip it either way. You can't stop a person from flipping, but what you can do is make their flip a lot weaker or softer than it would be. If they try to get too aggressive, they miss. So learn that exact spots that you want. I know that I'm aiming for a spot right around here. When I want to serve down the line, I contact it here, boom. When I want to go to the big breaking one, like that. When I want to do the double bouncer, my first bounce is right here. I contact it here, boom, and it should almost slide. Okay, that's how you make the ball serve low. A couple of key things: contact the ball very low to the table, definitely below net level. A lot of people contact it too high. Make the first bounce around here and work on it. Just practice it and see how this works. But you do want that ball to be low to the net. Okay. Anyone here remember the name Tong Tong Gong? Okay, Tong Tong Gong was a kid. I used to coach him. He was on serves. He had his own idea. He only had 3 serves. He served backspin, he served no spin, and he had this aggressive serve out to the backhand. He was very stubborn about it, very conservative this way. And his serves were very limited, didn't have a very large tactical toolbox, and he dominated off his serve. And someone was saying, if Tong Tong had better serves, he'd be really good. And it was true. But he was playing a practice match with a guy who had really good serves, and yet Tong Tong was dominating. The people were talking, I said, come here, stand on the side and watch. Tell me what you see. And I had them just stand there and watch. And they kept watching it. After a while, one of them finally picked up on what was the difference. Tong Tong serves were simple, but every serve was a net grazer that went pink, pink. And the guys were literally trying to lift that ball up. The other guy, these tricky spins, and they're all bouncing like this. Like that. Go on and watch players, even the good players. You'll be surprised at how high the ball crosses the net and bounces for some players and less for others. It's one of those small things that people don't follow a lot of times. Okay, but it's a very important thing. Now, if I could take Tong Tong serves and the other guy's serves, that's world-class serves. Okay, all right. Let's see what was next on my list. I'm almost just keeping a list of what I want to go by. Okay, placement. You want to really, really test out the different placements in your match. You have to do this all the time to gain instinct for what works. I'm going to give us a few examples. Okay, some people, if you serve it short to the forehand, what's the advantage of that, of serving short to the forehand?
Compared to the backhand, you have like less risk.
Okay. Forces them usually to do a forehand receive. What else is an advantage of serving short to the forehand? Okay, there's several things. It pulls the person over the table if they're awkward. Some people are a little awkward on the forehand receive. The problem is when you serve short there, they have that big angle there. They can flip it either really aggressively, they have maximum table, or outside the corner, they can really go after it. So it's a dangerous serve to go after, correct? So there's a simple way. I know this because I can always tell if someone is smart enough because I used to have a good flip. I know people with good flips. If they keep serving here, I'm going, yes, yes, yes. A smart player realizes that here I got the big angle, here, much more difficult. If you're playing someone with a really good forehand flip, you'll find that right here they have much more trouble than here. If you ever play me, keep serving here, forget that. No, good flippers tend to be very good right here, and it's a little more awkward right there. They may be consistent, but they don't have the big angle and stuff, so that's an example there. Now they may come over and do this. How do you stop someone with a good backhand flip? Actually, I was going to come back to that in general, but I'm going to come back to how to stop flipping and how to stop the short push. Hope I'm not going too long.
Maybe like 5 more minutes?
Okay. The placement, if you serve it to the middle, it cuts off the angles. When you serve short to the forehand, you have to guard this big angle over here, which means that this is open. If you're guarding that, you're also going to be covering this. There's more table to cover. You can do the geometry, but this distance here, to here is a lot more to cover. That's why most players tend to serve to the middle. It cuts things off a lot more. And so, a lot of times it's best for third ball serves, favors serving to the middle, but there's exceptions. For example, a forehand attacker often likes to serve to the backhand. Why would a forehand attacker serve to the backhand, giving this big angle here?
Usually players play cross court rather than down the line.
Right?
At least that's a little.
If I serve it there, they don't have an angle there, which means I can go way over here knowing that they can't do much there. If I serve it more over there, I have to guard this, so I'm wide open. So a lot of people who really want a third ball sometimes serve it more towards the backhand to try to cut that off so they can really go for the forehand. Most players don't do this very well. Remember, we went over that. And if they don't do that, that works. Preston Chen, remember I told you that we won 2 national championships because a kid just learned to chip the ball wide to the backhand and took away Preston's whole forehand. He had the under 14 US Open, US Nationals, Amarish Soho. He learned one simple thing against Preston. He would take the serve and chip it inside here. Preston wants to loop it, and he couldn't get around that. Do you have a question? Someone, I thought. Okay, so placement is one of those things I could spend hours on, but I don't have that much time, so I won't go into that. Okay, I want to get into a couple other things. I want to talk about serving in different locations and how to stop the short push and flip. I've already done long serves, good. All right, different locations. How many people have seen players who just spend the entire match serving from the same spot? Okay. I always think it's funny that people don't vary it. Now, there are some who get with it. Ma Long almost always serves from here. Okay, but if you watch Fan Zhendong, who's number 1, he will do this serve here a lot because he wants the angle there. You'll see him serving from the forehand side. You also see Ofstra from Germany serving like this. Okay, I'm gonna ask a quiz question. If anybody answers this one, I'm gonna be really impressed. Who is J.J. Hardy? Here's a guy who played Nathan Shu and served a 24-50 player and served Nathan off the table. And none of you have heard of J.J. Hardy? The guy is an all-star. He's famous. He makes millions of dollars because he was a star shortstop for the Baltimore Orioles baseball team. He shows up at our club. It's a long story, ask me later, I was coaching him. But he has this weird thing. He's about 1,800 player. And he serves a regular forehand pendulum, but always from this side. And Nathan had never seen that before. They played, and the first game, Nathan literally, I can't believe this. He kept missing the guy's serve, only because he came from this way. The guy played another 1,800 player in the club, wins deuce in the 5th. Vary the location. Don't just serve repetitively, always in the same spot. So I'll learn to serve over here, if for no other reason, to give you the angle there, just take away the backhand flip sometimes. If you can serve it here, short there, long there. So learn to serve it from different locations, even if this is your primary one. Okay? How many people here always serve from the backhand side? How many people always serve from the backhand side but are too embarrassed to raise their hand? Okay. How many people almost always serve from the backhand side? Okay. All right. I'm going to cover 2 last things which are related. Okay. This one, I think, to save time, I'm just going to read off my notes. Okay. Okay, because I actually wrote up this here. Okay. How to beat the flip. Okay, I'm sure you've all played it. Some people have good backhand flips, some have a good forehand flip. The backhand banana flip has almost revolutionized the sport when people learn to really do that. Now everyone favors the backhand flip. In my day, people favored the forehand flip. So it works both ways. The goal, I'm just going to read off this now. Goal is to force soft or erratic flips. It's also to draw the player over the table. Okay, if you can draw them. Yeah, so they're jammed on the next shot, okay? Now, how do you stop it? 1, serve very low, okay? If you serve very low, they have to lift the ball. 2nd, lots of variation, including loaded backspin, heavy nose spin, and some short side top, okay? You've got to give lots of variation so their timing is not good. Everyone is different. For me, flipping was one of my big strengths except one thing. Smart players, and thank God most players aren't smart players, discovered one simple thing. They serve backspin, boom. Side top, boom. Top, boom. No spin. No spin for a lot of players is actually the toughest to flip for a lot of players. The reason? Especially on the forehand side, backspin, you can use their backspin to create toss spin. Toss spin, you just go over it. No spin, you have to do everything on your own. You can be consistent, but it's actually tricky for a lot of players, including me. So a lot of players have trouble with the no spin. That's one of the quickest ways to stop some flippers, okay? Stop the backhand flip. I already talked about this. You've got to have some serves, like Overtrove, who can do this here or serve aggressively there. That was the key to being Canuck as a junior, being able to serve, same motion, short there, long there. If you do that, You can all go back in time and be Canuck as a junior. Has anyone played Canuck in the last few years? No one here has played them?
5 years ago.
Okay, that was a while ago. Okay, all right. Any questions on stopping the forehand flip or stopping flipping? Okay, just a reminder, again, if someone likes to flip, this spot here is the most awkward spot for them. Okay, ways to stop the short push. I just wrote down 7 here. I'll just recite them. Okay, well, actually, this isn't 7 reasons, but the goal is to get them to push high into net or long, or jam them over the table. You got a question?
Oh, I have a question about the flipping.
Stopping the flip?
Yeah.
What? Yep.
What about like people that go over with backhand?
Who do what? Come over?
Yeah, because doesn't that expose them both of the areas?
Okay, you mean if a player does this?
Yeah.
Okay, first, that was, in my day, that was considered a joke. Now everyone does it. Usually they can come around and get back quickly, but what exactly is, you're thinking that you can get them over here then?
Like, about like the angle of where we should serve.
Oh, to stop that?
Yeah.
Okay, obviously if you can serve it from there over here, this is incredibly awkward. That's the way to do it. The difficulty of serving down the line, this is Canuck as a junior beat a lot of players, I think he still does, is everyone wants to stay away from his backhand flip. Again, I'm talking Canuck as a junior. I think it's still true, but during his up and coming days when he was dominating every age group, he was weaker on the forehand flip. And so what would happen was players would serve short there, and because it's right down the line, he could get to that ball easily because it's coming right at him as opposed to coming away from him. You see the difference? And so he actually had the weapon of coming here this way, and that way, and stepping back. Or the part that really helped him, and this is one of those percentage things that throw people, is he would sometimes do this, sometimes then he would do his forehand flip, which comes out different, and it threw people off because they have to adjust to both. So it didn't work, serving short to the forehand, unless you do it this way. Now, if a person does flip the ball, they're rushing back here. These days, they're so fast, you can't always get them, but a lot of times, as they do this spot opens up. And if it does open, they have to go this way, and then this spot opens up. So it's just percentages. Everyone's different on that, though. I always think that this flip here, that one is scary. No one did that in my day. But that isn't done too often. So.
Would it be a relevant tactic? So, like, I'm not great at loops, so I miss a lot of my loops. So, would it be a good tactic to, like, get a flip back, but then, like, block that with more speed?
Okay, they flip and, okay, if someone flips the ball and they're over the table and you make a very quick return, you can catch them jammed at the table, okay? However, surprisingly, and I was gonna cover this in a minute, that's actually more effective when someone pushes short. If you draw someone over the table and they push it short, okay, versus someone who comes over and flips, the one who pushes short is easier to jam than the one who flips. Why is that? Anyone know? Why do you think that the one who pushes short is easy to jam, while the one who flips it is not as easy to jam?
So, like, the push is like a slow shot, so maybe, like, their cadence will be slower to, like, come back.
Okay, well, there's 2 reasons. First, because they do this, they drop it short, they have to watch the next ball, which also could be short, which means they have to sort of stay in, and now they're jammable. When they flip it, they know the ball's coming out, they immediately step back. So if they push it short, they have to kind of hesitate. Second thing is because the ball's short over there, you can catch a ball very quick angle. Well, if they flip it deep, your ball's deep. So when someone comes and drops it short, then they can really jam you the next shot. That actually happened a lot at the Nationals and in July when I was coaching there. I won't go into that one. Anyway, so that's the key thing there, is how you catch them on that ball there. Okay, is that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, how to stop the short push again? Okay, goals again, make them push high into the net, along, or jam them over the table. Again, if they push the ball short, you can jam them as long as you can sometimes push short again. If they have to guard against this and this, it's very tough to cover both. The way to stop it, half long serves. That's actually one of the reasons they were designed. Half long serves are very hard to push short. They can be. Remember we did that drill where you take the ball in the drop, but they're much harder to drop short. They're more likely to pop up or go long. So half long serves, heavy no spin. At a lot of levels, that's the simplest way to stop it. A lot of people have great difficulty dropping those short. Short side top. The one I gave you the example earlier, at the Hopes last year, Werner Schlager, the former world champion, we had a discussion, and he actually said when he won the Worlds, how many people know Wang Li-chen, 3-time men's champion? Okay, he said the only reason he won is when halfway through the match, he switched to mostly short side top serves. He'd been serving backspin, nose spin stuff, and he went to over and over all short side top serves, and that won the match. Well, suddenly Wang Liqian couldn't drop them short, so Schlager would just serve it, step back, and just start going after that ball every time, and that paid off for him. He won the Worlds over Wang Liqian, big upset. Okay, so that's the way to stop the short push. Wang Liqian was dropping it short, bringing him over the table, and then winning on the next point. Okay, sudden loaded chop. Most players serve with side backspin. Then when you need to, you suddenly go for the heavy, heavy pure chop. People go in the net all the time, or they just go long because it catches them off guard. Serve to the less controlled area. I think you mentioned that earlier. Sometimes one side has more control than the other. Most people have more control in the backhand than the forehand. So go to the side where they have less control and bring them over the table with that one. Okay, so that's some of the ways to do it. The other thing is how you stop the flip. This is one that always bothers me, that people serve short. They know the guy might drop it short, and the guy drops it short a little high, and then they're lunging for it. If you're expecting the guy to push it short, be ready to come in and flip that ball and jump on that ball, because what you want to do is make that guy drop it low and short, not just short. If it's like this, you should be jumping on that ball. Okay? All right. Have a few things I don't need to go over. I was going to talk about holding back on best serves. We talked about that actually. How it's better, I think, to use them early and then come back to them, though. And some other stuff. I think that pretty much covers everything. Any questions?
Is it more effective to flip with short pimps or inverted?
A short what?
Short pimps or inverted?
Okay, that's an interesting question because, okay, before the banana flip, short pips was always better. My personal opinion is if I could use short pips off the short ball just for the first thing and then immediately go back to inverted, I would have everyone go to short pips because it gives you a great touch on the short ball and a really good flip. It's still up in the air, which is better for flipping pips where the spin doesn't take on. You can go boom like that, or the banana flip. That's someone, I think I've seen a lot of people disagree on that, and I'm not 100% certain. I actually lean to short pips being a little better off the short ball because you can flip it so aggressively, and when you combine it with the short ball. The weakness of pips is not off the short ball. That's a big advantage. It's the deep ball where inverted has the big advantage. Off the short ball, pips is almost always the advantage. I would always go for short pips for flipping and dropping short, but if you're going to just flip it, on the forehand pips is better, on the backhand, I don't know, how many people think short pips is better for flipping versus banana flip? How many people think it's easier to flip with short pips if you've ever tried it? How many people think banana flip is easier? Okay, that's one of those ones. Be interesting because the banana flip is, of course, the big renovation. Well, to a lot of you, it's normal. That was one of the big things that changed the sport in the last 15, 20 years. So, any other questions? Okay, how many people prefer pepperoni pizza? How many prefer, what types do we have? All right.